16, I didn't realize how really totally messed up I was. My wife and I were having a conversation about that yesterday. Like, yeah. And she said, yeah, you were pretty messed up. I know. I'm a pretty broken and messed up kind of person. Just past and my own choices and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know what I really needed, but I wanted what God wanted for me. I wanted the happy parts. I wanted the fulfilled parts. I wanted more than my surroundings, right? There was a desire and drive someplace in me that I just wanted. I want God's stuff. I want the bigger. As I became part of stuff in college and then went on staff at churches and worked in churches, not only did I want stuff in my own life, I really started to understand what it was to have God do big, important, powerful things in other people. Not that it had to be something that got on the news. Some of you have seen this, that there's a movie coming out where a kid falls through the ice and he was pronounced dead at the scene, and the mama of this young man, this teenager, prayed, and he came back to life. I think he was pronounced dead. He had been dead for like 15 minutes or something, right? And so they have a movie coming on about it, and everybody's going to get to see it. Well, that happened in Lake St. Louis, right here where I live. And so we know some of those, friend of a friend kind of thing. And there's big stuff that happens in people's lives that gets on the news and on a movie, right? Most of the time in my experience, it's not like that. I thought about writing a book at one point called Almost Famous. Called The Book for the Rest of Us, right? And really, I think someplace in there, that's where most of us live. We don't live with, God doing stuff that it's all over the news or there's a movie about it or whatever else. But I want to be a part of something that's important and powerful and impactful in other people's lives and really in my own life too. And sometimes I get overwhelmed because, man, I don't have the resources for that. That sometimes it's like I want these big, great things to happen, but in my own life I don't have the money for it, I don't have the machinery for it, I don't have any of those things. How can I help something big take place? On the other side of that, it's like sometimes I have the political connections or the money or machines or influence, and I have all those things, but God is nowhere in it. So it's almost as if I can build this great monument to something and say, look what it is, and God not be anywhere around it. So I think there's both ends, right? The side that I look at stuff in my own life or the lives of others where I am powerless and weak and poor, and there's no way I can do it, and I can feel overwhelmed. Then there's the other side where I have all resources, I have all connections, I have all that stuff, and I can do it in my own strength, where really, when it happens, in the grand scheme of eternity, it means absolutely nothing because I did it myself and God is nowhere around it. I think in this room this morning we got people on both sides, or you've been in both situations. You've been in the place where you've been powerless and you really wanted something to happen to you, or you really wanted something to happen in other people. And I think some of us in this room have been on the other side, where we have the influence, the authority, and the resources and the stuff, and we can make stuff happen, but someplace in there we build a monument to ourselves or something else, or even try to do good things, but God is nowhere around it. You ever been there? I've been there. I put so much time and effort into it, into good things, but never prayed about it first to see if God was in it. I depended on myself and my things and my abilities or my intelligence or my whatever. I'm not a quitter. And I gutted it out. And even at the end of it, God wasn't anywhere around it. I think the guys that we're going to talk about today, I think they were really in both places. I think part of the story, they're on the side where they don't have the resources. They don't have the stuff. There's an insurmountable task ahead of them. There's all these things, and they feel weak and powerless in the face of their enemies or the face of the opposition and think it's never going to happen. Or maybe they got started in it and it never could get finished. There's also guys in the story, and sometimes it's some of the same guys, that they do have the blank check, the resources, the whatever's necessary, but someplace in it, God's not at the center. So, as you look with me in the book of Ezra, let me set the stage for us. As many of you know, if you've been in church for a long time, you've read about 10 to 1920-08. That the North and the South divided. Now me growing up, I'm from the land of sweet tea. Anybody else? Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. I'm mostly down that way, right? And I look at the Civil War and call it the War of Northern Aggression. Some of you will get that later. All right? And Yankees and stuff. Okay, so in that kind of context, I look at this North-South and think, okay, well, I can understand a civil war among a group of people. And so that the northern kingdom divided from the southern kingdom of God. And the northern kingdom, in this case, didn't have anything to do with God. And in 722 BC, God had enough of the people and their junk, and he scattered them. He had the Assyrians, a bunch of bad people, come in and scatter them. Okay? Well, their brothers and sisters in the south, the two tribes, you would think they would have learned. You would have think God keeps his word, and we ought to be close to him, because otherwise God's going to wipe us out. But in 586 BC, so 100-something years later, God got finally fed up with the people in the south, and he didn't scatter them. He took them into exile. He took them into the land of Babylon. This dude named Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar, great king, right? Want to take over the world. And so the southern kingdom was taken into exile. The prophet Nehemiah, right? Jeremiah. Prophet Jeremiah. I'm getting my prophets mixed up. Jeremiah made a prophecy from God and said, in about 70 years, after you have basically paid your dues to God, his promise is that he will bring you back into the land. He will honor his people. There will be a remnant. And he'll bring those people that were afar off, he'll bring them back. And so for that 70 years, there were some people who were like, ooh, can't wait till God keeps his promise. The nation of the people of Israel were living in Babylon, living a far way off. They even wrote a bunch of songs. Psalm 120 to 135 in there. A lot of those songs were written. It was people longing to come back to Jerusalem. And so at a certain point, God set the historical things in place to bring his people back. And in Ezra chapter 1 is the beginning of that. And it says this. It says, in the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, that's the guy who took over after Nebuchadnezzar, in the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken through the prophet Jeremiah, the Lord roused the spirit of King Cyrus to issue a proclamation throughout the entire kingdom and put it in writing. This is what King Cyrus of Persia says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and has appointed to me to build him a house at Jerusalem in Judea. Any of his people among you may his God be with him, and may he go to Jerusalem in Judea and build the house of the Lord, the God of Israel, who sits in Jerusalem. Let every survivor where he resides be assisted by the men of that region with silver and gold and goods and livestock, along with a freewill offering for the house of the God of Jerusalem. So God was keeping his promise. He looked at the people that he had judged and disciplined, that he had put into exile, and he said, my people who are called by my name, I'm going to bring you back to the land that I promised. And so God moves the hearts of the king. And so King Cyrus says, okay, Jews, you can go back, and I give you my blessing. You can go rebuild the temple. It was a political move in some ways by Cyrus, but he didn't really understand that God was moving him to do it. So at that point, 50,000 Jews left Babylon. They came down to Israel to start rebuilding the temple. And the people who lived there got a little hacked. They're like, you guys have been gone for 70 years. This is our property. This is our land. Your temple is in ruins. You guys shouldn't be back here. And in some ways, I think they got a little kicked and were motivated to make sure the Jews didn't do what they were there to do. And so they wrote political letters. Man, if you read in here, if you read in the book of Ezra, I mean, it sounds like Washington, D.C., the stuff going back and forth. All kinds of crazy letters going back and forth. And finally, at a certain point, these people around, the people of God came with Ezra. And there were a couple guys who came with them. They had a religious leader, a guy named Joshua or Yeshua. He was the prophet. He was the spiritual leader guy to help get the temple stuff together. Then there was a guy named Zerubbabel. Say that with me. Zerubbabel. I always like saying Barney Rubble. Helps me remember, okay, because I'm just a little kid at heart. So Barney Rubble or Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel, interesting thing. Zerubbabel was in the family line of Jesus. He was in the family line from King David coming down through there. And so Zerubbabel had the crown. Ultimately, Jesus would come through Zerubbabel. So in our idea, it's sort of important that Zerubbabel survives, right? So Zerubbabel is a political leader. Joshua is the religious leader. And 50,000 people come out of Babylon to rebuild the temple. And they start building. The people in the area get ticked off. They send letters back to the government officials saying, hey, do you know what happened last time? The people who are here, they rebelled against you guys and you had to destroy them. And you don't want that to happen again, do you? My summary of I had a little hand there. Well, let me tell you something kind of thing. So the government officials, it wasn't Cyrus, it was the guy after Cyrus, and he's like, I don't need a rebellion on the frontier out there. I'm going to shut that stuff down. So here's Zerubbabel and Joshua and 50,000 people. They started rebuilding the temple, and a letter comes from the capital city. Halt. Stop. Don't do anything more. Can you imagine a group of people that starts building a building, has this great desire to do something, and they feel like God's all in it, and then everything comes to a halt? I can't imagine they felt defeated. They felt discouraged. The government officials, the guys, we had a blank check, and now we can't do this. We're being halted in this. We feel like God sent us here to do something and do something for him. I bet they wrote letters back and forth, but you don't understand. But they already said yes and nothing. I can imagine every time they walked by that plot of land where the temple was, where they were rebuilding it, I can't help but think as they walked by, they shook their heads. Did God promise us? Doesn't God want to do something here? I can't help but think that they felt discouraged and defeated because the people of the land there, they kept this God stuff from happening. They blew it out of the water. Their enemies probably gloated over them every time they walked by the property. They looked at it. They said, see there? These people, they don't have a chance. They're not as smart as we are. We have good connections. All we do is pull the strings and the government does what we want. And they'll never get this thing built. You ever feel defeated?
Oh, yeah.
That was an amen. What were the others?
That was different.
Yeah. You ever feel discouraged? You ever feel like I'm trying to do good things in my life and I just can't make any headway? It's us. I can't help but feel like Joshua and Zerubbabel and all those people that I feel like God promises us. They had it in writing. We usually don't have it in writing, but we usually have something inside of us that says, God, don't you want my family to be healed? God, don't you want good things in my life? I'm trying to live for you. God, don't you want my church to prosper? I've been in this situation sometimes where we were doing all the right things and doing all this stuff, and it felt like the world and everything was coming against us. A couple of years back, there was a movie that came out. It was a remake of The Little Rascals, right? And when I was a kid, I watched all the black and white Little Rascals. I wanted to be with Steiny and the gang and all that kind of stuff. In this movie, one of the main characters, Alfalfa, with his hair sticking up, he makes this little speech. He says, things were going terrible. And then I thought my life was going to change. The sky opened up. God looked down at me. And he said to me, I hate you, Alfalfa. You ever feel like that? You ever feel like, man, it's bad. I really want good things to happen. And you feel like God looks down at you and goes, I just hate you. I felt like that. I felt defeated and discouraged. Sometimes because of my own sabotage and sin. Sometimes I feel like I just can't get a break. It feels like everything's against me. I've been on that side. Very rarely have I been on the side that's like, man, I got this political connection. I know this guy, I can make that happen. I've had that sometimes. And I made a phone call. I made something happen. I got it done. I worked in my own power to get things finished. But where was God in all that? Do you ever ask that question? God, where are you in my stuff? Where are you in my difficulty? I'm trying to do this for you. I'm trying to live the right way. I'm trying to do the right thing. God, where are you? I would think that the people here felt that. Then God started to stir his people once again. Turn over to Ezra chapter 5. For you Bible scholars out there, you know this chapter 5 is 16 years after this book starts. So after they laid the foundation, after they built a wall or two, can you imagine how frustrated you would be if you laid a foundation, put a wall up, and couldn't finish it for 16 years? 16 years they walked by that building with a heaviness and a fear and a dread, and nothing's going to happen. It says, verse 24, chapter 4, now the construction of God's house in Jerusalem had stopped and remained at a standstill until the second year of the reign of King Darius of Persia. But when the prophets Haggai and Zechariah, son of Iddo, prophesied to the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel who is over them, Zerubbabel, son of Es, and Jeshua, or Joshua, son of Jozadak, began to rebuild God's house in Jerusalem. The prophets of God were with them, helping them. God sent a message. Boys, pick it back up. Wouldn't it be nice to know what that message was? Wouldn't it be nice to be sitting right there next to Zerubbabel and Joshua or Jeshua? Wouldn't it be nice to sit next to them and hear the message of the Lord come to them? Because, what would God say? Would he say, go? What kind of encouragement would it take for those two men to get off of the bench and back in the game? What do you think it would take? A very cool thing for us. We have the message God sent to them. If you'll take your Bible and turn over to the end of the Old Testament in the book of Zechariah. So from Ezra, we go Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentation, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. If you get to Matthew, you've gone too far. 400 years, actually. And Zechariah the prophet. Zechariah was one of those guys. He was of the priestly family. He was born in exile in Babylon. He was a very young man. The prophet Haggai was a much older man. When both of those guys were in the group that came from Babylon back to Jerusalem, they were part of that 50,000. It doesn't say what these guys were doing during those 16 years. But at a certain point, God starts to give prophecy to Zechariah. The word of the Lord, actually, we have a date for it. It was October 520 BC that Zechariah started getting messages. He wrote it down. In fact, he got 8 visions to tell the leaders what to do. And that started, this is crazy, it started on February 15th, 1519 BC. We know that specifically because he says what day and month it was in his calendar, and it matches up with King Darius, and we have all those records. Really cool. We know that this is not just some made-up little story. We know that on February 15th, 519 BC, Zechariah started getting messages from the Lord. The one I want us to focus on is chapter 4. It's like 4 visions in. God has the prophet speak a message very specifically to the 2 guys in charge. To Zerubbabel, the family line, the kingly line of David to Jesus, and Joshua, whose name means the Lord or Yahweh saves. My Bible says it's Jeshua, same name, and that's the same name for Jesus. Okay? So a message from the prophet. God gives the prophet this message in chapter 4 of Zechariah, beginning in verse 1. It says, the angel who was speaking with me then returned and roused me, as the one waking out of sleep. He said to me, what do you see? I replied, I see a golden lampstand and a bowl at the top. The lampstand has 7 lamps on top with 7 spouts for each. There are also 2 olive trees beside it, one on the right of the bowl, one on the left. And I asked the angel who was speaking with me, what do these mean, my Lord? Verse 5. Don't know what they are? The angel replied, who was speaking with me. I said, no, my Lord. He answered to me, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by strength or by might, but by my spirit, says the Lord of armies. What are you, great mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you will become a plain. And he will bring out the capstone accompanied by shouts of it, grace, grace to it. And the word of the Lord came to me, Zerubbabel's hands have laid the foundation of this house, and his hands will complete it. Then you will know that the Lord of armies has sent me to you. For who despises the day of small things? The eyes, 7 eyes of the Lord scan throughout the earth. They will rejoice when they see the ceremonial stone in Zerubbabel's hand. That might sound a little cryptic to you. What does that mean? The angel comes to Zechariah. Zechariah was like waking out of sleep. The angels had been giving him these pictures, and a lot of times the prophets would see symbolic things that they really didn't understand. And so he's like, I don't get it. What does this mean? The prophet, or the angel says to him, the symbol here is there are 2 olive trees. One symbolizes Zerubbabel, the other symbolizes Joshua. These 2 guys are going to lead God's people. They are filled with his spirit, which is the spirit of this olive oil pouring into the lamps. And the thing I really want us to focus on is this. Watch what the angel says, that this is the message of God to Zerubbabel. And I really think today this is God's message to you. So he answered me, the angel answered me, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by strength or by might, but by my spirit, says the Lord of armies, is what this one says. Says the Lord of hosts. What does that mean? The first word there is strength. It comes from a word that is often translated strength or able or might. It's almost like the picture of someone who has money or power or connections. The angel of the Lord is saying, hey, it's not just by the things that you can do that will make these things happen. It's not just by your connections. It's not just by your strength. It's not just by your power or authority. Just because you can write a letter, just because you know the right guy. It is not because of you that these things will take place. Does that mean that Zerubbabel and Yeshua and these people aren't supposed to do anything? No. They're supposed to start rebuilding. Does that mean we're not supposed to do anything? No. We're supposed to do, as a guy who used to go to my home church a long time ago, he said, when all you can do is all you can do, then all you can do is enough. Right? You do not have responsibilities. We're supposed to do what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. We're supposed to love our neighbor like we love ourselves. We're supposed to take care of our families. We're supposed to be compassionate and gracious. There's a whole list of stuff that we ought to be doing. Okay? So we're not supposed to set that aside, sit down, and wait until God sends us everything that we need in a basket. We still have to do what we're supposed to do. But God says your success, your accomplishment, your overcoming is not just going to be in your efforts. Your accomplishment, your overcoming is going to be by the Spirit of the living God. It's not just because you have the right connections or the right authority or the money or the resources. It's not just because of you. The second word he uses in this passage, it says not just strength, but the second word translated might means power or sometimes translated ability. Just because you're the smartest guy in the room. Just because you have all the abilities. And one of the ways it's translated is you are immovable like a rock. People ever say that about you? Some people might say that means stubborn. There are 2 things going on here. The angel of the Lord is saying it's whether you have 0 of this or whether you have all of it. Whether you have no ability, no power, no strength, no connections, or you have all of them. That these things are not going to happen just because you have it or just because you don't have it. You might be in a situation where I don't have the resources, I don't have the ability, I don't have the strength, and God wants these things in my life. God, how is this going to happen? How are you going to change my life? How are you going to change these things in my circumstances? You might be on the other side and saying, I have all power. I can make these things happen. But God wants you to remember, just like the king and the prophet, God wants you to remember, it's not just by your might and power. It's not just because of your connections. Or it's not when you had nothing. Because most of the time I feel like we're at the point where we feel like we have nothing. When was the last time in your stuff that you stayed on your face praying before God? When was the last time that you asked God, I mean it for real. I want you to do something. I want you to change this. Or God, I want you to change me. When was the last time collectively we as a body of believers said, God, we want you to show up in our church. We have a beautiful, lovely building. We have a great location. We've got wonderful things. We've got a few dollars in the bank. We ought to be making things happen here. Folks, things happening in this church is not just because we have smart, gifted, tithing people. Things happen in this church because we together come together and we do all we're supposed to do, but we trust the power of the living God to do in our midst what we cannot. We ask God, change me. Then we ask God, change us. Then God, use us. Not just because we can build a monument to ourselves in a building here. Not just because you can have everything in your life looking good. Or if you're on the other side, God, I've got no resources. I've got nothing. I can't do any of this. God doesn't want you to be discouraged beyond reason. He says, my Spirit is the one that will bring it. My power. In Psalm chapter 20, the writer of this psalm, I don't remember if it's David or not, but in Psalm chapter 20, beginning in verse 6, it says this. It says, now I know the Lord gives victory to his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven with mighty victories from his right hand. Because some take pride in chariots and others in horses, but we take pride in the name of the Lord our God. We might think as a body of believers, we can do great things because we have smart people who can work hard. And I want to say, this church, more than many churches that I know, this church has a lot of people who can work very hard. You can. I've seen it. It's really awesome. Not every church has that. But what we need more than our own skills, more than our own abilities, more than our own bank account, more than what we can do with a phone call or a letter, we need the power of God to be in our presence so that when things happen, we can't take credit for it. I know for me, I want to be smart. I want to be smarter than anybody else in the room. I want to do my stuff and do it well and everything else. But when things get accomplished in my life, then I can take credit for it. Right? And it's not by works of righteousness which we have done. What a reminder. It's not because we're better than anybody else. Romans 12:3. Don't think more highly of yourself than you ought. For by grace you are saved through faith. That's not of yourselves. It's a gift of God, not of works, so no man can boast. I can't say I am good enough, I'm smart enough, I'm in the right family, I've done all the right things, that gets me into heaven. My stuff is nothing. Paul said, my righteousness is as filthy rags before God. My accomplishments are nothing. My things are nothing. I am a broken servant before the Lord that I want to be filled with His Spirit. I want to be moved by His Spirit so that when things happen around me, they can't say, look how smart he is, look how accomplished he is, look how good he is. They can say, what a mighty God he serves. What a reminder for us. Folks, it's not by power, it's not by might, but it's by my Spirit, says the Lord of armies. Amen. What's going on in your life that seems insurmountable? Have you spent time weeping and praying? But I've been doing that for years. I've been doing that forever. There's a parable in Luke that this little widow lady comes to the unjust judge, and it's that picture that coming over and over and over and over. Why does God do it that way? I have no idea. But over and over and over, and finally the unjust judge says, give that woman anything she wants and get her out of my courtroom. I don't want to see her again. And for some reason, God has prayer with us like him, with him like that, and I don't understand it. But he says, keep coming back, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. And we might think, well, all I got to do is pray once. Didn't he hear me? And he's the omnipotent God. Doesn't he know everything? If he's sovereign and large, big, large, and in charge, doesn't he know where I am? Doesn't he know I need him? For some reason in this relationship, it's not just one time. I have to keep seeking him, keep knowing him, keep knocking at the door. Keep on seeking, keep on asking, keep on knocking. And what did Jesus say? The door will be open to you. And it's not just by what you can do. It's not your lack of abilities and stuff, and it's not if you have everything. Both of those come together. It's not by my might. It's not by my lack of it. It's not by my power or my lack of it. It's by the Spirit of the living God. What is the thing in your life? If you have a marriage thing that's going on, maybe you need to get on your face and say, God, change my marriage and begin with me. Maybe you have a thing at work and you have a boss who's just mean. And maybe, when was the last time you spent time praying for your boss? Don't pray, God, cut his brake line. That might be bad. When was the last time you prayed? God, change him. Meet him where he is. Help me to love this boss. Have you done that? What about in this church? When you said, hey, these chairs are empty, parking lot doesn't have as many cars in it. Instead of whining and complaining about it, when did you pray about it? We can do the work together. We need to do the work together. It's our responsibility. But God is under no obligation to do anything here. But if his people who are called by his name humble themselves and pray and seek his face and turn from their wicked ways, he will hear from heaven. He will forgive their sin and he will heal their land. God is waiting. I think God is waiting to do something in our midst when we finally get out of the way. When we finally confess our sin and we come before him and we give ourselves to him, God is waiting to show up when we say it's all about you and it's not about us. Have you done that in your life? Have you done that in your family? Have you done that in this church? Oh, that it would be our cry, not by might and not by power, but by his Spirit, says the Lord. That means we need to seek his face. We need to pray. I heard it said a long time ago. It said, work as if it all depends on you, and pray as if it all depends on God. And that's where he calls us. So just like Zerubbabel